People at Harbor Base 9 had a habit of laughing without making it obvious. They did it with looks, with quiet jokes, with short pauses before saying yes, like it was a punchline. Officer Nora heard it all. Not because she was careless. Because she was new, and she was different, and she asked questions. She was short, calm, and serious. She kept her hair tied back tight, her uniform sharp, her notes cleaner than anyone else's. She followed rules, but she did not worship them. That made some people nervous. The first day she reported, a senior officer glanced at her file and smiled in a way that did not reach his eyes. "Navigation," he said. "You sure you're not lost?" Nora did not react. She just replied, "No sir. I'm exactly where I'm needed." That line made the laughter worse for a week. The base sat on the edge of a grey sea, where fog rolled in most mornings and stayed like a secret. Ships came and went. Helicopters turned the air into noise. And beneath all that, the water held its own quiet world. Nora loved that quiet. She trusted the sea more than she trusted the breakroom gossip. She worked in the Coastal Survey Unit, a section people treated like a boring corner of the Navy. Their job was simple on paper: map seabeds, check for hazards, update charts. Most officers wanted exciting assignments. Nora wanted truth. Because the sea did not care about rank or popularity. The sea only cared about what was real. On a cold Tuesday morning, Nora sat at a computer station studying the latest sonar scans. Her partner for the day, Officer Imran, leaned back in his chair with a cup of tea. Imran was one of the few who did not laugh at her. He was older, quiet, and had the patient eyes of someone who had seen too much to waste time teasing a junior officer. "What are you looking at?" Imran asked. Nora zoomed in on a section of the map. "This line. It's wrong." Imran leaned forward. "It's just noise." "It's not noise," Nora said. "It repeats. Same shape, same angle. Like a spine." Imran stared at the screen longer. "Could be old wreckage." "Old wreckage doesn't look like that," Nora replied. "And it wasn't there last month." Imran's tea stopped halfway to his mouth. "Last month." Nora pulled up the older scan and placed it beside the new one. The older scan showed a clean slope. The new one showed a long dark shape lying against the seabed like a sleeping animal. Imran frowned. "That's strange." Nora pointed at the coordinates. "It's in a restricted cove." Imran's face tightened. "That area is flagged for training routes. We don't go close unless we have permission." Nora's eyes stayed steady. "Then we get permission." Imran hesitated. "You know how they are. They'll say it's not our job." Nora saved the files and stood up. "Then I'll make it our job." They went to the operations desk with printed reports. The duty officer, Commander Hale, barely looked up. He was broad-shouldered, with the kind of confidence that often came from being surrounded by people who never challenged him. Nora placed the report on his desk. "Sir, we found an anomaly. It could be a hazard." Hale glanced at the papers and gave a small laugh. "A hazard? In a restricted cove? Right." Nora kept her voice respectful. "It matches the profile of a large vessel. Possibly a wreck. Possibly something else." Hale's eyes finally lifted to her face. "Officer Nora, do you know how many weird shapes show up on sonar? The sea is full of junk." "It's not junk," Nora said. Hale smirked and looked at Imran like this was a show. "You backing her up?" Imran cleared his throat. "It is unusual, sir. It wasn't present in the previous scan." Hale waved a hand. "If it was serious, someone else would have noticed. We're busy. Drop it." Nora's jaw tightened, but she did not argue. She left the office with Imran behind her, both of them feeling the weight of the dismissal. In the hallway, Imran sighed. He shut it down. Nora said quietly, "No." He postponed it. Imran blinked. "How?" Nora pulled out her notebook. "Because if it's nothing, we lose a day. If it's something, we lose lives. I'm not gambling on someone's ego." Imran studied her for a second, then nodded slowly. So what's your plan? Nora's eyes went to the large window facing the sea. The fog was lifting, revealing a line of dark water. We don't go into the restricted cove, Nora said. We go near it. We run a fresh scan from the outer edge. If it still looks the same, we'll have enough data to force a real review. Imran frowned. They'll ask how we got the data. Nora replied, they can ask. I'll answer. And I'll take the consequences. Imran shook his head with a half-smile. You're stubborn. Nora looked at him. I'm careful. That afternoon, they went out on a small survey boat with standard equipment. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that looked like rebellion. Just two officers doing their boring job. The sea was calmer than usual, almost flat, but the air carried a sharp chill. Nora watched the coastline. The restricted cove sat behind a rocky bend, hidden from open view. That made it the perfect place for training drills. Or for someone to hide something. Imran adjusted the instruments. Scan running. Nora leaned over the screen as lines and shadows formed into shapes. She waited, feeling that familiar pull in her chest. The anomaly appeared again. Clearer this time. Long. Smooth. Too clean to be debris. Imran whispered, that's not a fishing boat. Nora measured the length on the display and felt her stomach tighten. No. Imran swallowed. It's a submarine. The word felt heavy in the air. A submarine did not belong there. Not on any schedule. Not without a crew. Not without reports. Nora took a slow breath. Save everything. Imran nodded, fingers moving fast. Nora stared at the screen. The submarine rested in the seabed like it had been placed there, not crashed there. The outline looked intact. No broken tail. No scattered pieces. That made it worse. Because an intact submarine that nobody reported was either a miracle or a lie. Nora turned the boat carefully. We're going back. Imran looked uneasy. If we report this, Hale will bury it. Nora's eyes sharpened. Then we don't report it to Hale first. Imran paused. Who then? Nora replied, the person above him who hates surprises. They returned to base before sunset. Nora didn't go to her dorm. She went straight to the office of Captain Farooq, the base commander. Getting in was not easy. The guard outside asked questions. Nora answered calmly. She showed the scans. She refused to leave. When Captain Farooq finally agreed to see her, he looked tired, like someone carrying too many responsibilities. He stared at the sonar images for a long time. Where did you get this? He asked. Nora stood straight. Outer edge of the restricted cove. Standard scan. Farooq's eyes moved to Imran. Officer Imran, confirm. Imran nodded. Confirmed, sir. Farooq's jaw clenched. This is not on my reports. Nora said, that's why I'm here. Farooq leaned back and tapped the desk once. Commander Hale told me nothing. Nora did not comment. Farooq stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the lights along the dock were turning on, one by one. If this is a submarine, Farooq said, we have a problem. Nora replied, yes, sir. Farooq turned. You understand what you're asking for? An unscheduled dive team, a sealed operation, questions from headquarters. Nora held his gaze. Sir, if that submarine is empty, we still need to secure it. If it's not empty, time matters. Farooq watched her carefully, like he was trying to decide what kind of officer she was. Then he nodded once. Fine. Quiet operation. Tonight. Only those who need to know. Imran's eyes widened. Farooq continued, you found it. You're going with the team. Nora's heart thudded, but her voice stayed steady. Yes, sir. 2 hours later, Nora stood on the deck of a small support vessel wearing dive gear. The sea below looked black now, broken by reflections of base lights. A dive specialist named Salman checked her equipment. You ever done a night descent in cold water? Nora replied, yes. Salman nodded like he respected that. Commander Hale arrived late, looking angry. He cornered Captain Farooq near the rail. "This is unnecessary," Hale said sharply. "She's overreacting. It's probably a rock." Farooq's voice turned hard. "A rock doesn't have a hull." Hale's eyes flicked to Nora. "You went over my head." Nora answered calmly, "I went to the person who could act." Hale's face darkened, but Farooq held up a hand. "Enough. We're doing this." Hale stepped back, but his stare stayed fixed on Nora like a warning. The boat reached position. The water swallowed the last of the dock lights. The only sound was equipment and breathing. Farooq gave final instructions. "No radio chatter unless necessary. We document everything. We do not touch anything we don't understand." Nora nodded. "Understood." She and Salman entered the water. Cold hit her like a wall. Nora forced her breathing to stay slow. She focused on the descent line, the beam of their lights, the pressure in her ears. The sea turned darker with every meter. Then, slowly, the shape appeared below. A submarine. Not a wreck. Not broken. Sitting there like it was waiting. Nora's light washed over the hull. The paint was faded. The metal looked older than expected. Salman moved closer and pointed. Letters were carved into the side near the front. Nora leaned in, reading them through the moving water. The name made her stomach drop. Because it was a name she recognized from a story people told in training, a story that always ended the same way. Lost at sea. Never found. Nora's mind raced. That submarine should not exist. Salman's voice crackled through the comms, low and tense. "Officer Nora, there's no damage. How is it here?" Nora didn't answer right away. She saw something that made her blood run cold. The hatch. It was not sealed shut by rust. It had scratches around the edge like it had been opened recently. Nora raised her light and looked at Salman. Salman shook his head slightly, like he didn't want to. Nora reached for the hatch handle anyway. Her glove touched the metal. It felt warm. Not warm like the sea. Warm like something had been running inside. Nora's heartbeat hammered in her ears. She looked up toward the dark water above, then back at the hatch. If the submarine was warm, then it was not a grave. It was a secret. Nora turned the handle. The hatch moved. A thin stream of air bubbles escaped, rising fast. Salman's breathing quickened. "Nora, wait." Nora pushed the hatch open just enough to shine her light inside. And what she saw made her body go still. Not water. Not wreckage. Not bones. Inside was a narrow corridor lit by a dim emergency glow. And on the floor, near the first step down, was a fresh footprint. A human footprint. As if someone had walked through there very recently. Nora's throat tightened. Then she saw the second thing. A small metal case with a Navy seal on it, placed neatly like a message. On top was a label with 2 words that turned her stomach into ice. For Nora. She didn't understand how that was possible. No one on this base was supposed to know she was here. No one was supposed to know she even existed beyond a file and a joke. But someone did. Someone inside this submarine. Nora's hand trembled as she reached toward the case. And deep inside the submarine, a faint sound began to rise. A low hum. Like a system waking up. Like the submarine was coming back to life. The hum inside the submarine grew stronger. It was not loud, but it was steady, like a heart that had never truly stopped beating. Nora froze at the open hatch. Her training told her to pull back, to report, to wait. But something deeper than training held her in place. Someone had put that case there. For her. Salman's voice shook through the comms. "Nora, this is wrong. That sub should be dead." Nora swallowed. "I know." She raised her light again. The emergency glow inside the submarine flickered, weak but alive. The metal walls were dry. The air bubbles rising past her face told her one thing clearly. There was air inside. Usable air. Nora pressed the comm button. "Surface. This is Officer Nora. The submarine is active." "Repeat, active." Static answered first. Then Captain Farooq's voice cut through, sharp and controlled. Active how? Nora spoke carefully. Internal systems humming. Interior dry. Hatch operable. A pause. Then Farooq said, "Do not enter." Nora looked at the metal case again. The label was clear. Clean. Recent. For Nora. Someone had planned this moment. Nora replied, "Sir, there is a personal item inside addressed to me." Another pause, longer this time. Farooq's voice lowered. "Addressed how?" "By name," Nora answered. Salman shifted beside her, clearly uneasy. "Captain, we should abort. This feels staged." Nora agreed with him. And still, she knew she could not leave without answers. Farooq finally said, "Document only. No exploration. Open nothing else." Nora nodded, even though Farooq could not see her. Understood. She reached in and carefully took the metal case. It was heavier than she expected. As soon as she lifted it, the hum deepened, vibrating faintly through her gloves. Salman grabbed her arm. "That thing reacts to you." Nora pulled back from the hatch and sealed it. The bubbles stopped. The submarine went quiet again, like it was pretending to sleep. They ascended in tense silence. On deck, the air felt thin despite the open sea. Crew members stared as Nora removed her mask, water streaming from her suit. Commander Hale pushed forward. "This is madness. A ghost sub and now personal messages." Farooq held up a hand. "Not another word." Nora placed the metal case on the deck. Water slid off it. The seal remained intact. Farooq studied the label. "Open it." Nora hesitated. "Sir, this was inside a restricted vessel of unknown origin." Farooq met her eyes. "Officer Nora, whatever is happening already crossed every line. Open it." Nora unlocked the case. Inside was not a weapon. Not documents. It was a data drive and a folded piece of cloth. Nora lifted the cloth first. It was a naval patch. Old. Faded. The insignia belonged to a submarine that had vanished over 15 years ago during a classified mission. The same submarine resting on the seabed. Imran, standing behind the officers now, whispered, "That sub was declared lost with all hands." Nora picked up the data drive. Her fingers felt cold. Farooq exhaled slowly. That mission never sat right with headquarters. Hale scoffed. "Stories. Legends." Nora turned to him. "Sir, legends don't leave fresh footprints." Farooq ordered the drive analyzed immediately. Within minutes, a screen lit up in the operations room. A video file opened. Static first. Then a man appeared. He wore a navy uniform older than Nora herself. His face was lined, his eyes alert. "If you're watching this," the man said, "then Officer Nora did exactly what I hoped she would." The room went silent. The man continued. "My name is Captain Zaid, commanding officer of the submarine you just found." Imran gasped softly. Captain Zaid looked straight into the camera. "We were ordered to disappear. Not sink. Not die. Disappear." Nora felt her pulse in her throat. The mission involved testing an autonomous underwater system capable of remaining hidden for decades, Zaid said. The project was buried when politics shifted. We were told returning was not an option. Hale snapped, "This is impossible." Zaid smiled faintly on the screen. "That's what makes it effective." Nora leaned closer. "He's alive." Farooq nodded slowly. "Or was when this was recorded." Zaid continued. "We maintained the vessel in silence. Minimal power. No contact. We watched the world change from below." The room felt too small. "Why now?" Farooq asked aloud. Zaid answered as if he could hear him. "Because systems decay. And because I needed someone who would look instead of laugh." Nora's breath caught. Zaid said her name again. "Officer Nora, you were chosen because you question patterns. Because you notice what others dismiss." Hale's face drained of color. Zaid finished, "If you found this, it means the final protocol has begun. The submarine can no longer remain hidden." The screen went black. Silence crushed the room. Farouk finally spoke. "We just uncovered the biggest secret this Navy has buried." Hale muttered, "Or the biggest lie." Nora stood straighter. "Sir, someone is still maintaining that submarine." Farouk nodded. "Which means this is not history. It's active." Outside, alarms began to sound softly. A junior officer rushed in. "Captain, we're detecting power fluctuations underwater. The submarine is increasing output." Nora felt the same chill she had felt at the hatch. Whatever was inside had waited for her. And now that she had answered, the submarine was waking up. Farouk turned to Nora. "Officer, you started this. You're staying with it." Nora nodded, calm despite the fear burning inside her. "Yes, sir." Hale stared at her with something close to dread. "You don't know what you've opened." Nora met his gaze. "Neither did you when you ignored it." The base lights flickered once, then stabilized. Deep below the sea, something ancient and patient prepared to surface. And the Navy was about to learn that the woman they laughed at had just rewritten everything they thought they knew. The sea began to move. Not violently. Not with waves. It moved with purpose. On the monitors at Harbor Base 9, a slow rising signal appeared. Numbers climbed in steady lines. Depth decreasing. Power increasing. The submarine was ascending. Captain Farouk stood at the center of the operations room, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the screens. "Evacuate unnecessary personnel from the dock." Quietly. Orders moved fast now. No jokes. No laughter. No doubt. Commander Hale stood near the back, pale and silent. Nora watched the data scroll. Her mind stayed calm in a strange way, like it had already accepted that nothing would ever be the same again. Imran stepped closer to her. "Do you think they're still alive?" Nora did not answer right away. She remembered the warmth of the hatch. The fresh footprint. "Yes," she said finally. "I think someone is." The water near the restricted cove began to churn. Cameras focused. Floodlights cut through the dark. Then the surface broke. Metal rose slowly, smoothly, like something old stretching after a long sleep. Gasps filled the dock. The submarine emerged fully, water sliding off its hull in sheets. It looked worn but proud, marked by time but untouched by decay. The name on its side became visible under the lights. A name the Navy had erased from records. A name that now stared back at them. The vessel settled against the dock with a deep, controlled sound. Silence followed. Then a hatch opened. A man climbed out. He moved slowly but steadily. His uniform was faded, but it was worn correctly. His posture was straight. His eyes were sharp. Captain Zaid was alive. Behind him, others appeared. Fewer than a full crew. Older. Thinner. But alive. Every officer on the dock stood frozen. Captain Zaid looked around, taking in the lights, the uniforms, the base that had changed while he stayed hidden beneath it. Then his eyes found Nora. He walked toward her. Commander Hale stepped forward instinctively. "Captain Zaid, you are under." Farouk raised a hand. "Stand down." Zaid stopped in front of Nora. He studied her face with careful attention, like confirming something he already knew. "You found us," he said. Nora nodded. "Yes, sir." Zaid gave a small smile. "Good." Farouk stepped forward. "Captain Zaid, on behalf of the Navy." Zaid turned slightly. "Save it. We'll talk soon." Then he looked back at Nora. "You saw the signs. Others didn't." Nora met his gaze. "Why me?" Zaid answered without hesitation. "Because you weren't trying to be impressive. You were trying to be accurate." Those words spread through the dock like quiet thunder. Over the next hours, truths came out. The project. The order to disappear. The silent decades spent maintaining balance between secrecy and survival. The slow breakdown that made discovery inevitable. And the choice Zaid made. He had programmed the final protocol to respond only when someone noticed the anomaly for the right reasons. Not curiosity. Not ambition. Care. By morning, news reached headquarters. Then the government. Then the world. The Navy faced questions it could not dodge. Commander Hale resigned before he was asked. Officer Nora stood before a review board days later. Not to be punished. To be recognized. The chair at the center of the room leaned forward. You understand your discovery changes doctrine. Nora replied calmly. It changes responsibility. They promoted her that day. Not because she found a submarine. Because she refused to ignore the truth. Weeks later, Nora stood alone at the dock at dawn. The sea was quiet again. Captain Zaid joined her, leaning on the rail. The Navy is different now. Nora nodded. It has to be. Zaid looked at her. They laughed at you. Yes, Nora said. And you kept listening anyway. Nora watched the horizon. Someone had to. The sun rose slowly over the water. Deep beneath it, secrets no longer slept. They surfaced. Because one woman officer chose to look closer when everyone else chose to laugh. And that changed everything. The attention did not fade after the submarine surfaced. It multiplied. News crews gathered outside Harbor Base 9. Questions poured in from every direction. Analysts argued on screens. Old officers came forward with half-finished stories they had once been told to forget. And in the middle of it all stood Officer Nora, calm, quiet, unchanged. She did not enjoy the spotlight. She tolerated it. Because the truth was never about her. It was about what happens when people stop looking. A week after the discovery, Nora walked through the base corridors and noticed something different. Conversations stopped when she passed, not with laughter this time, but with respect. Some officers nodded. Others looked away, ashamed. Imran caught up with her near the survey wing. You realize they're rewriting training manuals because of you. Nora raised an eyebrow. They should rewrite attitudes too. Imran smiled. They are trying. Captain Farooq requested Nora's presence that afternoon. His office felt heavier now, filled with reports stamped confidential. The board approved a new unit, Farooq said. Independent anomaly review. No rank bias. No dismissals without evidence. Nora listened carefully. I want you to lead it, Farooq finished. Nora paused. Sir, that will make enemies. Farooq nodded. It already has. That's why it needs you. She accepted. The first thing Nora did was reopen cases others had ignored. Strange readings. Lost signals. Notes marked unlikely. She did not assume they were all real threats. She assumed they all deserved a look. Captain Zaid met with her once more before being transferred to medical care. Time had aged him differently. Years underwater had made him patient in a way few people understood. You did not just find us, he told her. You reminded the Navy what silence costs. Nora replied, you stayed hidden to protect something. Zaid nodded. And you surfaced it to protect people. Before he left, he handed her a small object. A simple compass. It always pointed true, he said. Even when we were told not to trust it. Nora kept it on her desk. Months passed. The base changed. Younger officers spoke more freely. Survey data received real attention. The quiet jobs became important again. One evening, Nora stood alone on the dock as fog rolled in, just like it had the day she first noticed the anomaly. The sea looked the same. But she knew better now. She knew how many truths rested just below the surface, waiting for someone patient enough to see patterns instead of noise. Imran joined her. Do you ever think about what would have happened if you ignored it? Nora answered without hesitation. Every day. And we would have lost more than a submarine, she said. We would have lost trust in ourselves. The fog thinned as the sun set. Somewhere out at sea, ships moved with purpose. Beneath them, the water held fewer secrets now. Not because everything was revealed, but because someone finally listened when the sea tried to speak. And that was the real change. Not promotion. Not headlines. Not shock. but the end of laughter where attention was needed, and the beginning of respect where truth lived.